The law of proximity. This is a law of human behavior. What it means is that the person physically closer to the other person is more likely going to be favored. I did an episode on the B2B Revenue Leadership Show with David Meerman Scott, the author of Inbound Marketing, or the New Rules of PR and Marketing. And for 10 years, he had been talking about digital marketing, being able to be discovered online, being able to attract people. But what he found out through his research with his daughter, who's a neuroscientist, is that human beings, mammals, favor proximity. This is why face-to-face sales calls are so much more effective. And having done a lot of everything, email, phone, and online video, but also in person is 10 times better. The challenge is sometimes we can't do it. You know what I mean? But sometimes we have to be able to do it in another way. Video gets us closer. When we see somebody else, we recognize them as another person. We're going to go through a lot of stories today about the power of video from both a scientific and a practical sense. I've got Margaret from Co-Video on, who's for the last 4 years has been working in this realm. And we're at a tipping point right now with video, meaning that it's no longer optional. It used to be something that we could either use or not use, but now, since we're working from home, it's the default now. So we have to understand how to leverage it. Now, it's such a powerful tool because my story is about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more or less. I had up the plan of moving from being a bag-carrying rep to starting my own business. I love sales. I wanted to do more with it, but I got sick of working for other people. Yeah, we get there. And I said to myself, I'm not a good writer. That modality is not going to serve me right. I did write a couple of books, but I had editors and writers that I worked with that could take my ideas and polish them up a little bit, but still it wasn't the comfortable mode for me. What is that I love going outside for a walk and a run, and I always had my phone with me, and I would just turn it on because ideas would pop into my head, tips, humorous situations, and I would videotape them. But what I found was I got immediate feedback. I would watch the video. I go, is that how I look? Is that how I sound? And it became my personal coach. Watching the videos, editing them, picking the ones that I thought were valuable. And then when you put it up on YouTube, you get a lot of coaching very quickly. And some of it's constructive, a lot isn't, but it's still valuable. You can now see how other people are seeing you. And what you find is they're reacting to you. They're not really listening to what you're saying. They're reacting to how you look, how you sound, the quality of the video. What we're going to talk about today is all of these elements and try and give you a good perspective on what's the best way to leverage video to sell more. Because it's not just technology. It is human science, because we react different to a video than we do to a text. Let's get into it. Also, if you're start the conversation, get the meeting, make sure you listen to the last office hours that I recorded just the other day. It's already up in the course, because the office hours are kind of going from me reviewing the one-on-ones and trying to pull out a different distinction each time or profile a different persona and what they care about. People are diving in with both success stories and challenges. And what we found was we had about 3 great C-level conversations that were started in less than 30 minutes. Now, you can't do this with cold calling. You can't do it with pitchy emails, but it is possible when you understand what will engage the other person. Also, what we do is we review what people are doing, because people are challenges. They say, I tried this, I got this result. How can I do it better? So many of us fall into our patterns, and this is natural. This is not about experience or skill. It's just simple nuances that you get when somebody else takes a look at what you're doing, and all of a sudden it makes sense. Because it's important to understand why you got the reaction you got, and a little tweak can get you the reaction that you want. Let's get it in the interview. I'll sum up both the interview and where the courses are going at the very end. Hey, Margaret, welcome to the show. It's way of getting started. Tell us about yourself.
Hey, Brian, great to see you and hear you here. I'm coming to you from Co-Video, or the headquarters of Co-Video in Indianapolis. So you've been an awesome cheerleader of us in video for a long time. So I want to say thanks for that. It's nice to be on the show with you and chat with you a little bit more about video. And I kind of keep calling video the it girl of 2020, right? It's definitely having a moment here.
That's it. It was kind of, some people did it. It was almost a fringe thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they like it or not, and they're starting to find out the nuances and the power of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, through all of the difficulties, the challenging situation that we're in here today, one of the things that I am really encouraged by is, people have had their hand forced in using video here. They've been able to avoid it maybe up until now. The people who are really the kind of the trendsetters, the go-getters, they've embraced it. Obviously video's been around for a very long time. Starting to see a trend in video for B2B sales. That was, like you said, kind of on the fringe there. And now it's definitely kind of tipped over that point and something that everybody's having to embrace. And that excites me because I think it gives people the chance to stretch themselves and see that they can do it. No
Right.
matter your age, no matter your comfort level at first, and certainly it's pretty low at first.
Was it hard for you at the beginning?
It was. I was in a little bit of a unique case. So just to give you a background, I started at Co-Video in a sales role, was in that role for about 3 years, and recently transitioned to the director of marketing, which has been nice. It's given me a really interesting perspective on that marketing. I find it's been really helpful. But before that, in a past life, I actually was a theater major at Butler University in Indianapolis. And I found that actually made me uniquely positioned for sales, and particularly for video. So to your question, I think there's always some discomfort at first when you're on video. It's a lot about you, right? How do I sound? How do I look? What is that weird tick that I'm doing that I never noticed before? It's like hearing yourself on voicemail for the first time times 10.
Right. Yeah.
So there's definitely a discomfort. But I find that once you get over that hump, it's just so easy. It's so much easier, even for me. Gosh, I probably drive my friends crazy, because even in my personal life, if my emails start to get over, a certain number of sentences, I'm like, oh, forget it. I'll just send them a video.
Right.
It's just easier. So yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you treat email like writing a letter, you're using email wrong.
It's exactly
right.
Yep.
It's really much closer to texting. It should be.
Yeah.
And if you have more to communicate, turning the camera on, it obviously demonstrates that you're not a machine, that you're not part of someone's cadence. It's hyper personalized because you're talking to them. Yeah. And it shows that you have enough interest to put that much effort into it.
Exactly. Yep. You got it. And the funny thing is, it comes off as a lot of effort, but it doesn't have to be, because it's different than, I think people hear video and they think about those really like sleek, sexy marketing videos or commercials, and that has its place, and it has for a very long time, right? There's nothing new. But when we're talking about video for sales, totally different beast, right? It's more about that one-on-one connection.
Yes.
I call them video voicemails, right? So you're not coming up with a script, you're talking off the cuff, and that natural sort of tone in your voice that comes through and actually makes you sound way more confident than if it was something like, if I said, "Hello, Brian, Margaret here from Co-Video," you'd be like, "Done, get out of here, you're killing me."
Right. That's how voicemail is the worst.
Yes.
It's like their name, their company, their phone number. Okay.
Oh, God,
why are you calling?
Right.
And every time I get a video email, there's just too much curiosity not to click it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. People are like, what is this? Especially this is so, people who are familiar with co-video or video email, this will not be anything new to them. They'll hear us harping on it. But I almost always hold up a sign that has someone's name or a little message on it or something like that, especially their name. There's some kind of weird psychology about someone hearing and seeing their own name. And I almost take it back to, like, remember when we were kids and maybe we'd go on field trips, or, you go to somewhere and there's mugs with your name on it, or keychains, and you immediately are like, Margaret. Do they have Margaret? And you're like, they got it. They got Margaret. There's just that weird psychology behind it that people love to hear and see their own name. So something as small as that gets them from the beginning.
That's it, because Coca-Cola had a whole program about that.
Totally.
Printing the cans or the bottles with the names on it.
Yeah, share a Coke with Brian.
Right. Why does Starbucks write your name on it versus what's in the container?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Even though they misspell it all the time.
All the time. You should see all the ways I've seen Margaret spelled.
Yeah. Now, you got into this super early, relatively, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Co-Video's been around since 2004, which in the software world, makes us dinosaurs, a little bit ancient. We've been around for a while. But the cool part about that is we were almost a little ahead of our time. Yeah. It's funny. We shouted out, YouTube just had their 15-year anniversary. And we were like, hey, YouTube, from your big brother, we just had our 15-year anniversary, right before you too. So when you think about Co-Video being around as long as YouTube, you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So we've definitely been around for a bit, but it's taken a while for the market to catch up to that. Right. Yeah. It was not something that was embraced quite as much at first, but that's changed.
Well, that's it. Because in the last 5 years, I call it hitting peak email.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so Me Too email in the sense that everyone's copying each other.
Yes.
The alligator breakup email, got a quick question, subject title, quick question with 3 paragraphs of what you want to sell me. There's no question in there.
Yep, exactly. And it comes back to the personalization and having something of value. I was listening to one of your other podcasts here just recently about being, or maybe it was on your LinkedIn, about being like the sales Sherpa, right? Where you are the guide. And I love that idea about, being that sort of the sage for them, if you will, about leading them through. And video helps you do that, because one of the things I've seen is really, really important that not enough salespeople are doing is using storytelling as a part of their selling. And that's really difficult to get through when you only have text. And that's why, video, of course, can be so powerful, because there's that emotion, there's tone, there's inflection, there's body language, there's, eye contact, even all those things that we don't have in just the written word, that really elevate you and let you be, your best self.
I see you're doing something, as they say, to show your hands.
That's, that is just something that I can't stop myself. I'm a very animated person. Yeah. But we certainly, coach people on that sort of thing. Is, we shouldn't be stiff And again, this is one thing that has been a little bit nice about some social distancing and using video, because I harp on this all the time, is like, stop, get the idea of perfect out of your head, because perfect is not real, and it's certainly not relatable.
And it doesn't sell.
It does not sell. No one can see themselves in perfect. And you have to connect with somebody in order to form, that kind of, it sounds weird to say emotional connection, but buying is emotional, whether people are
Absolutely.
conscious about that or not, it is an emotional decision. So you have to have some of that emotional connection there as well. So the more you can be yourself.
Well, I'd like to get your perspective on it, because, I've been hyper focused on this for probably the last 2 years. Last year kind of blew up my business because I found a particular pattern that worked.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear your journey. It's like, how'd you go from okay to great at it? Or good to it?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. It's funny. I cringe when I go back and I look at some of my old videos, because I was focused on being perfect, and it was scripted. It was unfeeling. It was cold. It just felt like an email. So really there wasn't the advantage there. So when I took myself a little bit less seriously and was cool with making mistakes and kind of powering through those, or using that as part of my message, that's when I really took off to a different level. And that's what I see from the people, that I work with too, because certainly at first they're like, this sucks. Like, I'll be really honest with you. People who start video at first, they're like, I can't do it. I just spent 2 hours making, one video, and it's terrible. And I'm like, no, like, don't worry about it being perfect. No. And, like anything in sales, our pitch, our presentation, or all that sort of thing, it takes time and it takes practice.
Right.
So when you think about it like sharpening your sword, so to speak, and thinking about how that's going to make you better, rather than just being like, I want this quick win right out of the gate, like it takes time. There's no magic bullet.
That's it. Because what helped me is, like, instead of being sitting at the deck, I'd go walking around.
Yeah, I love those videos.
And then I figured out, well, on a sunny day, those videos get probably twice as many views as a cloudy day. Yeah.
Interesting. I love that. Probably all of us Midwesterners looking at you longingly and being like,
what's a sunny day? A big smile, right? What's a cloudy day? Mopey, right? It's just part of the tone and how people react. Yeah. And the big epiphany I had was inserting comedy, a little sarcasm, and a little lesson. Because any one of those alone gets interest, gets laughs. But if you put all three together, it's great.
Well, and that's where it becomes so memorable too, right? Without getting too into facts or whatever, but I think I saw something where it's like, 95% of your message is remembered with video versus 10% when it's just text.
Right.
And you can elevate that with those different things like you were talking about, right? Where it's a little bit funny, it's a little bit storytelling, it's a little bit of a lesson. I mean, that's something that, gosh, I just told you the Sherpa thing, that's stuck in my mind. I'm not going to forget that. And that's great. You do video very, very well. Obviously I have to, I bow down to you. You're one of the experts, man.
Well, the thing about walking is it gets a different part of your brain working.
Yep.
Okay. It puts you outside of your house in nature. So
You're
more calm. You're breathing more. You're more relaxed. You're not thinking like work, even though you might be thinking about work.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I'm not suggesting everybody do their videos walking, but maybe think of the idea, flip your camera on, record what you were thinking, then do it at your desk.
Totally. Well, I've even done some videos where, maybe I'm in the gym, and I had an idea. I was thinking, because it's sort of the same thing, right?
Wherever
my
like
head
the shower.
is clear. Yeah, exactly. I haven't done any videos from the shower yet, but
it might be popular.
exactly. Oh gosh, 2.0. So right, maybe I'm in the gym, maybe I'm in my kitchen, maybe, wherever it is that I get that idea and my head is the clearest. And what's funny is, whether you're doing that for, a LinkedIn video, or I've actually had great success when I am thinking about a client or a lead or whoever, and I get an idea about them. Boom, I'm pulling up my camera and I'm like, this might be out of the blue. I realize that I'm in a parking lot right now, but I was just thinking about you. And here's what I was thinking, because they're like, wow, Margaret is thinking about me when she's, commuting home or when she's doing whatever. And I'm like, you bet, man. I'm thinking about you and how I can help you out all the time.
Right.
And people love that.
And I think one of the key distinction is, like, say you put a text post on LinkedIn, it goes viral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now you put a video on there and it has some success. Now, if that person runs into you and doesn't know you, you don't know them.
Uh-huh.
Are you going to tap someone's shoulder? I read your text post. It was really interesting. Ain't happening.
Yep.
I got to tell you, since the fall, I've been approached probably 20 times in public.
I love it.
And you're beeping the horn when they see me on the street and yell my name out the window.
That's cool.
And I was at the airport in the security line at Christmas, and this guy put his hand on my shoulder. I thought it was TSA or something.
Yeah. What did I do wrong?
A text post, a blog post, you don't get that.
That's so true. And that comes back to that storytelling and personal branding, because that is almost more important sometimes than what you're selling, right? They're buying you. They're buying into your expertise, your persona, your, all that sort of thing. I've had the same thing happen on a much smaller scale. But in, Indy, maybe I'll be out at, some sort of tech event or meet and greet, or someone, one time I was actually at a bar watching a Butler game, and someone said, "Hey, you're that girl on LinkedIn." And I was like, yeah, I'm one of them. Yeah.
One of them. There's more than one.
Yeah. Like, it's the only one. But they recognize you, and they'll come up and say hi. And there's that comfort level then too.
They know, like, and trust you.
Exactly. And that is I love the idea about, and this will be controversial to some people. I talk a lot and I think about the word vulnerability a lot. And I think a lot of people have discomfort with that in a business setting, but I cannot tell you how important it is. And when I say that, I mean, I am being vulnerable by getting on camera, right? The way that I sound, I've got this terrible Midwestern accent, or, maybe I'm at the gym and my hair's crazy, or maybe I'm putting some ideas out there that someone might disagree with. But for me to put myself out there, that drops my guard. And I find it helps other people drop their guard in turn. So you can cut the bullshit. You can forget some of those airs that we typically put on in the professional world, and just get down to it.
Yeah.
And that will help not only strengthen your business relationships and open doors. I find it also speeds up the sales cycle as well, because
And also, I'm a terrible writer and I have dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
So text is not my channel.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was really sad because, about 4 years ago, LinkedIn was really pushing the Pulse posts, their little blogging platform.
Yep.
And there was a bunch of sales experts that were great writers, and they just blew up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I go, I'm never going to be that good. Not even at spelling. I mean, it wasn't even I had the content. I didn't have the context to get it out there.
Yep. Your perfect medium wasn't there yet. And by the way, I just have to say, I really appreciate you being vulnerable and saying that. That is tough to say, and it's something that I've struggled with as well. I love to write, but growing up, I had a difficult time with dyslexia as well.
Yeah.
And it felt really frustrating because I'm like, I know I'm a great communicator. But when you're given your perfect medium and you're able to convey your ideas so much more clearly, I mean, that's a big win. And that's what an awesome story too, that came out and you were like, hey, that doesn't have to hold me back. That's cool.
Right. And I think for reps, maybe the phone isn't or the phone doesn't work so much in your industry. Maybe it does,
Yeah.
but video works on your time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And you can do it at 3 a.m. The other person doesn't have to be there at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Actually,
send
it's
it.
funny that you say that, because I got a LinkedIn message from you confirming
At 2
today at 2:30 in the morning. I was like, what is Brian doing?
He's got sleep issues.
No, I think that's a great point. You can be in person with them, and obviously that is a really big thing right now for people.
Right.
And I know, very few salespeople who are not better in person. Almost all of them say, get me in person, get me in front of them, I'll close the deal. And yet when I present the idea of video, they say, no, that's not for me. And I'm like, dude, I just gave you an answer to your problem. Now, no, being in person, gold standard, right? Nothing's ever going to replace that. But if we can build a bridge, if you're not great at email, if they're not picking up the phone, and voicemail is as annoying as we all know it is, where can we find a little bit of a way to fill the gap, so to speak?
Right, because you can only convey so much on email, and it's getting reduced and reduced every day.
Yeah.
Because people are looking at it on their phone, and if they have to scroll, they might not scroll. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what do they want? Where is this? I don't know.
Yeah.
And in person is the best, but it's time consuming, not an option sometimes, and super expensive.
Yeah. And obviously not an option right now. They could be right down the street. And, obviously
and you're
it's
assuming that they will take that meeting.
Yep.
Which is
exactly.
really hard. And what have you seen people do wrong with video?
That's a really good question. I have seen them see kind of like the, where they buy in, they're like, okay, I get it. Video's cool. But they think they record one blanket message, just kind of like, your templatized email, and you send it out and they say, hey, what you said video would work. Why isn't anyone responding to me? And I'm like, well, you have to tailor that message, of course. And I think it's really interesting because personalization, and that's kind of a broad term, but it's everywhere. It's our suggested watch list on Netflix. It's my Spotify discover list. It's meal plan custom for me that gets delivered, whatever that is. And yet people, like, they see that, they love it, but it still doesn't quite, they want the easy way. They want to do one thing and they think that it's going to be a formula. And I'm like, man, I just don't know how to tell you that, like, it's not that simple necessarily. I wish it were. If it was, I always tell people, like, God, if it were that easy, I'd be laying on a beach in Bali somewhere right now.
Well, that's it. If you met them in person, you wouldn't say the same thing. You'd be like, hold on, I got a recording here I'd like to give you as my intro.
That's a great point.
Of course not. You'd be organic.
So
you would find something to talk to them about them. Something that they would be interested in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every time you go to a party with fellow girlfriends, what's the first thing you say? Have you lost
Where's the
weight?
beer?
Where's the beer?
Sorry, you just got me dreaming about a party right now. I'm like, oh, I'd love to be at a party soon.
What is a party?
Yeah. What's going on with you? What's new? Hey, tell me about that date you went on or whatever. Yeah, you don't say the same thing to everybody, because I know everyone's doing.
You wouldn't give your title,
stuff.
Your role, and your value proposition.
Oh God, they would be so sick of me. Yeah.
And how about, what are the excuses you hear? Is it like equipment? Like, I don't know if you know Casey Neistat.
No, I don't.
He's a huge YouTuber, and all his about is all the equipment, because he gets sick of people asking about the equipment.
That's really funny.
It's not the equipment.
It's not the equipment. I will co-sign that up and down. That's one of the excuses I get. That's usually a little further down the line. But yeah, they're like, oh, I don't have like a snowball mic or a ring light
Right.
or someone, I don't have a green screen. And I'm like, who needs a green screen? Like, we're not doing a Marvel movie.
Right.
So, just
Yeah.
pull up your webcam like you and I are doing right now. And actually, we said this right before we started recording, but, I'm in my childhood bedroom right now. Like, this is where I grew up, like
It looks
there's
nice though.
oh, thank you.
Is that a
But
princess bed?
it is. I know, it's like such a little kid. It's such a little kid room still.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for me to fake it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one of the things, when it comes to equipment, don't worry about it. Use your webcam. Literally everyone has a built-in webcam. So excuse debunked. The other one that I hear from people too is, well, you're good on camera. I can't do that. And I said, well, maybe not right now. That would be like me, talking to a power lifter, I don't know, or something like that, and being like, well, I can't do that. Well, not right now. You haven't practiced. You haven't
But
done it.
are you good at a party? And they
Yeah.
say, oh yeah. Okay. Imagine you're holding your camera in front of you at a party.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. People get too wrapped up in it. And, kind of one of the tricks I've always used, I just give myself a deadline.
Yes, that's great. Yeah.
I'm going to make 2 videos, and they go, you must be walking 10 miles a day. It's a 1.5-minute video.
Yeah.
And I do vignettes.
Yeah.
So I do like a 15-second funny point, and then I put them together through iMovie when I get home. And I just use my iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing special.
Nothing special.
Everybody has a camera. Everybody has the equipment, to be able to do it. So, that not a big deal. The idea of saying like, hey, I've never done that before. Awesome. You're in great company. Most people, haven't done it, or you're new at something, every time you try it. Right. So, so that's not a big deal. I mean, those are really kind of the big ones. And often I'll call them out as excuses,
And I think people are getting over it now, because your manager's not going to have an all hands with everyone turning their camera off. That's called a conference call.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want to see you working. That's why they want the camera on.
That's so true.
You're on the couch with fucking Tiger King. No, they want to see you, right?
Yes. So true. Yeah.
And that's it. I think people just make it seem like it's harder than it is, and they don't see the benefit of it. And I've got a lot of people kind of mimicking my walking videos, and they go, well, I'm not getting the reception that you are. And I go, are you being yourself?
Yes.
Are you bringing some value? Are you overthinking it? I mean, there's little tricks, center your face.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. There's certainly things like that. And just real quick, for anyone who's new to it, I do want to plow through a couple best practices that are super simple here. One of the biggest ones I'll tell you, and this is a hard one for newbies, is you always want to look at yourself, or you tend to raise your eyes up and look at the webcam, because then it feels like you're making eye contact and that you are there with that person, giving them your full attention. So that's kind of a big one. Centering it, head, neck, and shoulders. Keep it about eye level, and make sure you're not in front of any window. Basically, have the window be behind you. That's what I've got right now.
Yeah,
So the lights
light
on your
isn't
face.
blinding the camera.
Yep. Those are the little ones. But other than that, just go for it. Just do it. Don't overthink it.
That is cool. And what recommendation to get started? Is it just start with Zoom and just have a Zoom call with somebody, get a trial of co-video, or? Yeah,
I would do both of those things, because here's the thing, video is used in a lot of different ways, right? So we're on Zoom right now. Zoom is your live video conferencing where you both have a time and you're like, hey, we're going to meet up at this time and have a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
Well, then you've also got your co-video. That's more of that, hey, pre-recorded video that you're sending, like you were talking about before. You can record it any time and send that off, and whoever you send it to can look at it when it's convenient for them. So those are going to be two different things. Certainly, try a free trial. Obviously, it's a great way to get started with it. Anyone who's doing video for the first time, I typically will tell them, if I'm working with them, I'm like, hey, send your first video over to me. I'll give you honest feedback. I'd love to see it. If, otherwise I would say send it to a friend, a trusted colleague, because I understand, hey, right out of the gate, you don't want to send it to your top prospect necessarily. Maybe give it a couple practices, get some feedback from people, and then let it fly.
And how long should they be, a video email?
Yeah, typically 30 to 45 seconds.
Yeah.
They're short. They're really short. The only time I do it a message longer, because I obviously use video throughout a lot of my conversations, not every email certainly. But if I'm answering questions for people, those will be a little bit longer. We've already developed that trust and that rapport. I've got something that they need and want. Those might be a little bit longer, but I'm never doing a video more than 2 minutes long.
Yeah. And how's it helped you in the sales process?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing, because I was in sales even before I came to Co-Video. I've been at a couple other companies doing it as well. One of the things I noticed right off the bat is it gave me, I don't know how to say this in a great way, but like some validity or some clout,
Yes.
where right away they had they just had more trust.
Yes.
And it changed the tone of the conversation from the get-go. So let's say I send them a video email. First, they watch it, and then I call them and I say, "Hey, Margaret, how's it going?" Like the tone in their voice was completely different. Whereas before, they just couldn't wait to get me off the phone. It just really changed the game, and it made me be respected and more on their level, because they saw me as a person.
Yes.
When there's no face, when there's no relation there, it's way easier to be like, screw off,
Right. Yeah.
It's the same reason people can be so mean in comments on social media.
It's the law of proximity.
Exactly.
Because you naturally feel closer,
Mm-hmm.
and our brains are that way.
Yeah, just as humans, that's how we're wired.
That's how we're wired. Every company I've ever been at, a lot of startups,
Mm-hmm.
the further geographically the people were away, the more misunderstood and sought as strangers versus part of the team.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the other thing that spurred was when I was in field sales, the first thing I heard when I showed up is like, "You look a lot younger than you sound on the phone."
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right? Because they when you're listening to somebody, even when you're reading somebody's writing, you're putting an image in your brain of what that person looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, you should hear when I write someone an email and then they see or hear me and they're like, "Margaret, I was expecting a 85-year-old woman."
Annie.
It's an old classic name, classic as my mom would call it. But yeah, you can. It's this kind of the same reason people put their headshot in their signature.
Yes.
Right. It's like that times 100. But there's
and like on LinkedIn, people say, "Will you review my profile?" I go, "Yeah, you got to have a picture. Just put a nice warm smile from your camera." Okay. No fish. No kids, no dogs.
Yes. Thank you.
You're not at a stadium, right?
Yeah.
The objective is to be able to recognize you.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And use something current.
Yeah.
That's
a high school picture with a prom.
Exactly.
Tuxedo.
No, not going to cut it. Use something current. So
cool. Hey, this has been a fun conversation. Where can people go to follow you and learn more about your work?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, of course, Margaret Henney. And you can find us at covideo.com. Find us, either on our website or on LinkedIn as well. I certainly take a lot of great cues from you. I'm putting videos up, not nearly as much as you are on LinkedIn. Like I said, you're the man there. But if they want to learn a little bit more, check us out. And, we're here to help and hopefully make video a little less scary for people, because it can feel a little intimidating. New things are, especially like I said, when we've had our hand forced into this. For some people, they feel a little bit uncomfortable. We're here to make that easier for you.
Margaret does a great job of explaining this. And that's part of the power is when you do video, you get almost instant feedback, because essentially you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're watching the other person. So what you can do is say, take one thing at a time. How's your energy? Are you talking at the right pace, at the right tonality? Are you sounding like a salesperson, or are you sounding like you're talking to a friend? Somebody at a party, somebody at a gathering, where you smile and you're genuinely happy to see the person? Is your energy level at the right pace? You should be leading a little bit, be a little bit more excited than them, a little bit, maybe even a little bit faster, making good eye contact with them, either looking at them in the eyes or in their mouth. Seems to be the most effective, not drifting off or reading your email or playing with your phone, which signals, I don't care what you say, or trying to pounce on them. All these little things, this is how we become better. And we can become our best sales coach, because if you really listen to it in detail. The other part is, if you've got the business version of like Zoom, there's an automatic transcription capability that comes with it, where you can get a transcription and you start to see, okay, did I use non-words? Did I use things like totally and actually and precisely, things like that they're words, but they are just fillers. Little things of how to become a better communicator, because that's what we are. We are professional communicators. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you check out Co-Video. Give it a try. See if it works for you, because we're all doing Zoom and conferencing and all kinds of webinars. But email is one of those things that we need to connect with the other person. And the distinction that I got out of this one is I remembered so many times meeting somebody for the first time, both them meeting me and me meeting them, and talking about the image that we had in our minds. And two of them come to mind right now. When I was really young, before I even got into sales, I had this friend in New York City. I never met the person, but I was into commodities trading as a hobby. Bad decision. But I was going to New York City for another purpose, and we met up. And in my mind, I had this impression of the person, and I'm sure he did too. And we met for dinner, and we went for a little, walk around New York City, and I couldn't get over what a mismatch I had in my head as for what he looked like in real life. Also, another one was I had a headhunter friend that I had talked to so often for years, but had this is before kind of LinkedIn and having pictures online, had no sense of what they were like. And I met him in person. We went out to dinner, and it was just a weird feeling, because the voice clearly matched, but the image didn't match me in the head. What I'm trying to get at is you want that image, because that becomes a lot of the know, like, and trust. And the research shows that the close rate goes up about 34% when you do turn the camera on. It brings that level of trust up. And this is ingrained in us. This is not logical. This is embedded in us. And why not do it even if the other person doesn't? Now, this also goes to your LinkedIn photo. It should be you. It should represent you. If they can't recognize you from that photo at Starbucks or in the lobby, not a good match. This is something that we really got to pay attention to. Too many of us take a photo from high school or our wedding, or we have our kids and our spouse in it. That's not the objective. That's Facebook. The objective is that them to get to know us as a person. So make sure you check that out. If you're in the courses already, the one-on-ones are turning into pure gold. What's a one-on-one? A one-on-one is a 30-minute Zoom call with me. It's not like this. This is an interview. It's coaching, strategy planning, applying the course, not taking the course, but applying it to a particular situation. You want to get into an account. You want to know how to convert it into a meeting. Let's brainstorm and come up with ideas. The effectiveness of the course is skyrocketing because people are engaging. If you sit back and try and say, oh, this won't work, you got to try it. Sorry. In your head, it may not work, but in real life, it does work if you do it. And if it doesn't work, you need to take feedback and tweak it a little. None of the changes have been dramatic. We had one conversation. We got a CIO conversation started within 30 minutes. We get a meeting within 4 days because it's talking about what they care about. The other course, closing the complex sale. It's breaking down how companies buy. And they don't buy the way we sell. They buy the way they buy. And we have to understand that and put our strategy and process and approach in place. Now, once you understand it, you will prevent it from getting stuck. So how do you sign up? It's so easy. b2brevenue.com, hit the training tab. Don't email me or in-mail me because you won't get in my queue. I book myself up very tightly, and I need you to work through the workflow. So there's a tab right there. You want to talk, schedule a little 15-minute call. If you email me, it gets put in a pile, and I disqualify because you're not following the process. I'm sorry. It's me here, right? I'm not putting you to a flunky. All the one-on-ones are with me. All the office hours are with me so that I can give you the best quality possible. This is not a bait and switch program. I only want people in it who want to develop themselves. That's why I don't advertise it. I only do it to podcast listeners. And I ask that you listen to at least 3 to 5 episodes to make sure there's a right match for you. Now, you can either pay in 12 monthly payments or all at once. 12 monthly payments, just spread it out, but it's not a membership. It's not like, let me try it a month and see if it does it. I want you to qualify yourself and commit yourself to a year of getting great at these skills. People say, how long does it take to learn this? Well, what do you mean by learn? To take the class, you can see the time. You can just listen to it and watch all the episodes. Or you have to apply it and become great at it. I'm still doing it after 30 years. And the way you get better at it is seeing what's working for other people and try and help other people. The people in the course aren't selling the easy stuff. They're all selling the hardest of the hard stuff. So you get to learn from real-world cases, and it's the largest library of real-world cases that is available out there. This is not from somebody who used to sell uniforms for a couple of years and now just rehashes someone else's books. This is real selling with real salespeople. And I've been teaching the course, on-prem for about 5 or 6 years and online for 2 years. So the gold has been captured digitally and put up there. So what 2 skills could make you the best salesperson ever other than getting meetings with strangers and closing large, complex sales? The biggest sales in the company's history. So let's go to b2brevenue.com and sign up. Check it out. If you see my content on LinkedIn, I'd really appreciate a like, comment, or a share. And the best thing you can do for me is tell a friend about the show. We'll see you next time.